Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
So the wife says to the husband, "Listen, dear, there's trouble with the car. It has water in the carburetor." The husband says, "Water in the carburetor? That's ridiculous." The wife says, "I tell you, the car has water in the carburetor." The husband says, "You don't even know what a carburetor is. I'll check it out. Where's the car?" And the wife says, "In the pool." Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Monday already. Son of a gun. Thank you, Kate Smith. Good morning on October 14th in the year of our Lord, 2014. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. And now, this lady would never put a car in a pool. She knows all about being a mechanic. Good morning, Gina.
If I was mad enough, I would put a car in a pool.
You like that story?
I did.
I could hear that laugh all the way with the microphone closed.
I got a good giggle out of that one. And, sometimes a vehicle just needs to get a little bit wet.
Yeah. I was with a guy one time, years and years ago, that was up on the canal driving along and wasn't paying attention, and we did.
Oh, and you went...
Yep. Yep. Anyhow,
Monday.
It is a happy Monday. We're going to try to make it through the week.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting weather pattern for the next couple of days.
I know, and I have a feeling we may see some snow here, maybe not this week, but maybe next week.
I've heard rumors. Now, do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Al Butler on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. Mr. Al Butler, please tell us and give us a good prognosis for Polly.
She's doing real good. She's getting sassier than hell lately.
Yeah, but look who she has to live with. I mean, give the lady a chance, would you?
Well, I mean, we got to overlook that.
It's hard to overlook you, Al.
Just like the car in the pool. I know somebody that had water in the carburetor on a lawnmower, too.
Say the pledge, mister, and go on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Of all the people that could call and do the pledge in the morning, especially after I had that story, why you?
Hey, I got another little story for you, Zebra.
What's that?
Okay, this is a guy who says, we hear what we want to hear.
Yeah.
A 91-year-old fellow went to the doctor and had a checkup. 2 days later, the doctor saw his patient smiling with a 30-year-old woman on his arm. "Thanks, Doc. I did what you said. You find a hot mama and be cheerful." No, replied the doctor. I said, you have a heart murmur and be careful.
Goodbye, Al.
Bye.
See you later. Oh, it's time for the weather, and our first weather forecast of this week on Monday, October 14th, is brought to you by our dear friend, Mr. Michael Rogers, weather.com. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Zeb. Where did you hear a rumor about the weather? I'm curious.
No, that was Gina. I didn't say anything about it. She did.
Good morning, everybody. Congratulations to the Green Bay Packers. Let's
Thank
get
you.
that out of the way.
You know, that was just, it's a good thing they didn't have another 3 or 4 minutes to play.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. The Packers have something that is going to be pretty interesting. They have what is known as a running game. It's amazing what you can do when you run the football. How about that?
Yeah, and they also have something else that is very interesting, a mass of injuries, more so than any other team in the league.
Yes, and the Seattle Seahawks will see that as we get later into the season. That's why they had 16 games. Speaking of rumors, here's something that's happening with our area. And I just got off the phone with a gentleman that I am, and this really blows me away, but I'm mentoring as far as weather in Alaska. And one of the things I do when I look at the weather in Alaska, in fact, I always look at the weather in Alaska because I know exactly what's going to happen here. Alaska's got a situation what is known as a Pineapple Express.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom line with that is that they're getting this surge of warm air moving south to north as they work their way into winter. Okay. What does that mean for us? Well, that's the jet stream going south to north instead of it normally coming west to east. So what we're going to get out of it all this week is nice weather.
Really?
Day today, 55 for the high, 34 for the overnight low. It'll continue this week. It is not an unusual pattern that they're getting. It's not unusual that we're going through this nice pattern in October, because normally when it comes to snow and precipitation, you don't normally get it until December and January. So at this particular point in time, I would enjoy this week. It's going to be a little bit breezy too, ladies and gentlemen. Wind's going to be out of the southwest at about 8 to 10 miles an hour, gusting to 20, and more the same for tomorrow. So enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It is the only weather you've got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you, buddy. Have a great, safe day. God bless you. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Hey, real quick, we've got to remind you about Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, they can clean anything. And they've got gift cards, too. If you want to have somebody else have a gift card, they'll thank you. And they can get all their clothes cleaned by the real professionals. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Don't forget to get those drapes and everything clean for the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, everything else coming up. Daryl's Cleaners, the best, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And you don't want to forget, I really believe in these folks, SafeLink Internet. No contracts, no to credit checks, no to high prices, yes to unlimited data, yes to free installations, yes. Call them, tell them I told you to call, 677-8000. SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice in wireless high-speed internet. SafeLink Internet, you call them today. Caller, your indulgence. For 30 seconds, I'll be right with you, I promise. Don't forget, everybody, too, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, the number to call. They're open at 7:30 in the morning to 5:30, Monday through Friday. And they know the spud farmers are in a hurry to get everything dug with the power cords they need, the cord ends, the cords, fuses, everything. Stop in there for your power needs at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Always there, as they have been for 57 years in business, with the best of warm winters, cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Last week I was in Las Vegas on business, and I turned on the TV one early morning, and guess what? These two sisters from California had come to Las Vegas to, recreate or whatever, and they went out to this Red Rock National Recreation Area, which is about 40 miles out of Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much of a circumference it covers or anything, but these two sisters went out there. They didn't know it was closed. The visitor center was closed, with the usual warning sign on it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided they would take a hike in the desert there.
Yeah.
And here comes a conservation officer.
Oh, goody.
Gives them a ticket for a citation, $275 apiece.
They didn't pay it, did they? They didn't pay it, did they?
They haven't yet. They're on their way back to California, and they're going to repeal it. I hope people get behind them, and I don't know. Is this just sour grapes for some conservation officer that had to work and you don't think he's going to get paid right now?
Yeah, I would have ripped the ticket up, and I would have been very careful not to get one piece of paper on the ground so they could also include littering as part of the charges. But I would have ripped it up right in front of the officer and said, you keep writing, I'll keep ripping, and I'll keep sticking them in my pockets because this is my land. I'm a public taxpayer, and I'm going to walk on it whenever I deem necessary. You just run out of a pad of tickets, I'll follow you to your car, and you can write some more, but I would have ripped up every one of them and put them in my pocket.
You know, there was no fence or anything there. It was just open desert. That was an open area.
Yeah. This is ridiculous, and I'm advocating, yes, I am liberals, and boy, have I taken some heat over this. I am advocating breaking the supposed law and ripping those tickets up and defying them. I am advocating that in this case because this is absolute lunacy. Rip the tickets up, make sure not to litter, put them in your pocket, and take them home and then burn them. But I would not pay them. I would not give them the honor of standing there and accepting the ticket. I would rip it to shreds.
But you know what would have happened if they'd have done that in the presence of this officer? They would have got them for resisting arrest, and they would have taken them to jail.
He did not offer to arrest them, though. He was giving them a ticket, which is a lot different than arresting them, and I think they should have pushed the envelope because this is so ridiculous. What they would do by resisting that ticket for walking on public lands is the same thing the veterans did by going ahead and using wire cutters to go into the World War II memorial. If they're not going to get fined and they're not going to have a threat of arrest, why should these two women?
These two gals were probably in their 70s, just minding their own business.
Yeah.
They didn't pick up any rocks or anything. This guy just wanted to punish him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. I'm one of these kind of guys that if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And if our veterans, God bless them, are going into the World War II memorial and they're defying what's going on with Obama's edicts and they're cutting with wire cutters the wire that's holding those barricades together, then these women, I think they should have ripped the ticket up and put it in their pocket. Keith, I got to run, but thank you for that story.
Okay.
Thank you, my dear friend. I tell you what, I'm so fed up with this. Rip those tickets up. Make sure you don't litter. Put them in your pocket so that they're on your person, but rip them up and look them in the eye and say, how's your pen? You got a good 39-cent pen? Keep writing. I'll keep ripping. Rain for Rent, 134 South 600 West Highway 27 in Paul. The number to call, 438-5065. And, they've got the great Rain Key pivot sales and service. Let me tell you something, folks. These people really care, and they care so much about your business. They're having another great big drawing, and this time for a 40-inch flat-screen TV that's going to be running through October 21st, and they've got great Rain Key rebates for this fall, too. Professionals like Frank Jensen and Skip Hilton and Brooks West, and they can help you with all your farm irrigation, all your industrial services, water needs, everything at Rain for Rent in Paul, 438-5065. You get a hold of them today. Wow. I was really impressed. The other day, I was over to Valley White Home and Ranch, and, man, they were having a great big sale, and they've got so much as far as quality items are concerned over there. I just couldn't believe they've got everything for your horses. They got everything for all your feed for your livestock. They got all your clothing needs. Man, oh, man, the clothing department absolutely has escalated. They've got everything for you, and upstairs that fishing department and everything. Have you been in there to that newly remodeled store? Well, get on in to Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You see Steve, Mandy, the whole crew over at Valley White Home and Ranch in Rupert. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587 on this Columbus Day. And Christopher Columbus, a man that might have found the wrong country or made a mistake. He actually thought he had found the mainland of China when he sighted Cuba. He was just a few thousand miles off. That's all right. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I understand that you're having some good people come from Times News to visit with you.
I am, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Helen, because that's going to be on Wednesday. And let me tell you what they did, and this is kind of funny. I don't mind at all. I mean, it was just kind of funny. After we had made the agreement to get one of the gentlemen from the Times News editorial staff here, I got an email back, and it said, well, we're bringing so-and-so, and then we're also bringing so-and-so. It was kind of a gang up and pile on type thing, which is fine with me. I'll take them all on. There's going to be 3 of them and 1 of me. But I think what I'd like my listeners to do is be aware that on Wednesday at 10:06, we're going to have the Times News here, and it's fair game. It's fair game for you to ask questions about their service, ask questions about their liberalism, ask questions about the paper, what kind of shape it's in, etc. So let's turn the tables a little bit, and all of you call in.
Well, the only thing about that is I don't know if you can stand all that screaming and hollering they're going to do.
Helen, I've been...
The Democrats, when they get upset about something or want to make the point, they get loud and vicious.
Well, let them get loud and vicious. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a very interesting program. They know that I'm not happy about our service on our newspaper. I'm not happy at all living in a rural area and feeling like second-class citizen because they can't get out of bed in the morning and get the paper delivered. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about newspapers in general that are losing money and going by the wayside. So call in. Don't forget Wednesday. I'm going to be dependent on you, okay?
Well, you do one thing for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Get your ball bat sitting down by your hand.
Helen, you are supposed to be just this sweet little lady.
You know me better than that.
And you are not. You're actually a mafia hired hitman. I know.
Don't tell anybody.
All right. God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you. Hey, don't forget Save on Shells with Anthony and Danny. I'm telling you what. Now, a lot of people. I had a call the other day. And they said, "Oh, come on. Are you just doing a commercial, or did you really get your camper from Save on Shells?" I really did. At 1827 Overland Avenue in Burley. They've got a new line of camper shells, ARE, and all the different models from cab high to those you can raise up. And they got a great selection of used camper shells, too. And let me tell you something about them. You do not want to leave your equipment, your valuable tools, hunting equipment, fishing gear, saddles, anything exposed in the back of your pickup truck. Get one of those shells from Save on Shells. Let me tell you something. You save money. You get the best. I did. At Save on Shells, 1827 Overland and Burley. Absolutely good service, too. Great service with Anthony and Danny. Save on Shells. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Real quick reminder here. If you are not getting Cow Pies and Coffee Cups, my weekly newsletter and blog, this week we got another great set of prizes to give away. We have a beautiful travel bag that's being provided from Valley White Home and Ranch, and inside the travel bag we're going to have coffee mugs, we're going to have baseball caps, and a $50 gift certificate to Sportsman's Warehouse. All of that. We want to say thank you very much to our friends at Valley White Home and Ranch. We want to say thank you very much for Sportsman's Warehouse. And also next week, don't forget, we're going to be talking more about the Drift Inn getting involved. I mean, there's so much going on, you don't want to miss a minute of it. And get signed up. Go to zebbell.com, or you can send me your address and we'll get it on the internet. Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, at hotmail.com. Okay. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I meant to tell you about Four Paws Bed and Bath, and their number, of course, 438-4444. Now, today is Monday, and on Mondays they have what's called Munchie Monday. When all treats are 15 to 25% off. Hey, dog and kitty cat food, take care of your dog and kitty cats, everything. And here's something else, too. They're going to have a great big Halloween party on Saturday, October 26th. Free pictures with your pet, like get smiley with your Doberman, and refreshments and costume contests for your pets. Get your St. Bernard, dress it up. Oh, gee, what is it? That'll be fun, always is. At Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West, 200 South of Rupert, 438-4444. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We are in the 14th day of the shutdown. Disgusting shutdown. Obama could and should have ended this days ago, but he's not man enough or leader enough to solve the problems. Too many people are feeling the hurt from political stupidity. Let me say this again because it makes me feel good. Too many people are feeling the hurt from political stupidity on both sides of the aisles. But the number one problem and the number one cause of the problem, and I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody on this, is a lack of leadership from the Oval Office. If we had a president that really wanted to solve this, and if we had a president that really cared for the people, this problem of the shutdown and the looming bigger problem with the debt ceiling on the 17th being raised could have been stopped and stymied. But we don't have a president like that. We have a president that absolutely wants to have a dictatorship. You don't agree? Well, just look at his statistics, look at his track record. He wants to be the one-man show. He wants to be the carnival that comes to town, and he's the only ride in town. Obama absolutely wants to destroy the Republican Party. And, quite frankly, he might. But he wants to be in total control. He, along with Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and some of the other dim-dems back in Washington. This is a very scary scenario because people need to see really who's causing this problem now. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that a Ronald Reagan, or on the other side of the coin, the Democrat, John F. Kennedy, people like that would have never let this go. They would have absolutely demanded, not asked, but demanded, that the hierarchy of both political parties sit in a room, and they would have had it settled days and days and days ago. It probably wouldn't have gone to the 11th hour when Cinderella turned into a pumpkin anyway. With that kind of leadership, John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, and many others. This is ridiculous, it's stupid, it's insane, and it's hurting the American public, and it's hurting our image. Because we do not have a president that is qualified to be president of the United States. You argue with that? Golly gee, call me on the phone at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, too, about Travel Lube Supply. Supply? No, there's no A in that word, Zev. It's supply. Okay. They've got everything at Harvest. Yeah, they got all the grease guns, they got all the grease, and I think they got all their pink bubba ropes in honor of October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So check out your bubba ropes. They've got all the pink bubba ropes at Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West 203 south of Hayburn. Number to call for your oil, your tools, everything, 438-8730. And that, of course, is my buddy Jim McCall at Travel Lube Supply. It is time now for the Capital Press Ag Minute, brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. We'll be right back.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. A 10-year period of wealth in the U.S. ag sector, particularly in grain production, has led to a super cycle of appreciating commodity and land assets. David Cole, Professor Emeritus of Agriculture and Applied Economics at Virginia Tech, says the current supercycle started in 2003, affecting agriculture, water, gas, oil, and minerals. Rural America has been the beneficiaries of the growth in emerging nations and are tied more to those nations than they are to developed countries. But U.S. and global economic factors are pointing to a downward correction in commodity prices and land values. Cole expects extreme volatility in the next 5 years that will create a depression in some ag sectors. He says it will be important for producers to maintain liquidity and working capital.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Thank you very much. Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. And don't forget, National Recycling Day is coming up next month, November 15th. And Pacific Steel and Recycling, 100% employee-owned, as it has been for over 25 years. Great people at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. Caller, I'll be right there. But hold on just a second. I want to remind everybody about Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Don't be lulled into a false sense of security. Oh, it's nice outside. Well, it is, but The real cold weather is coming, and if you've got a sprinkler system, you better get those lines blown out. Yeah, buddy, because if they freeze, you got damage, and you don't want to have that, and it's going to put you in a really bad mood. You better call Scott Gannot today at 431-8733. Get on the list to take care of everything this fall so you can start them up in the springtime. Gannot Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 431-8733. Good old boy. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Zeb, you were talking about the news, the Times News a little bit ago, and unless I've only got my paper like 5 times in the last month, period.
Yeah.
So maybe I missed it, but that disaster on the cattle ranchers in South Dakota, it was on the national news this morning, but I've heard so little about it. But I have heard that over 60,000 cows are dead, and 6,000 ranchers have been affected. The government shut down so they can't get any aid. I'm trying to imagine getting rid of the carcasses out there.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, it's never even made our local papers. They got half the paper sports, but things like that is massive to me. I have
not seen anything in the Times News, and if I'm wrong, I will be man enough to apologize. We carried a story about it last week when Marty Mickelson called in. Marty Mickelson, as a matter of fact, Deanne, could you do me a big favor and try to get Marty's number? We'll call him on the air again here this morning real quick. Marty was stranded back there. He is a registered cattle hauler. He'll haul $110,000, $120,000 bulls all over the country and that type of thing. He called. He was stranded back there for over 4 weeks and had said that his numbers he gave us were over 75,000 head of cattle were dead and in snowbanks, and it was a disaster area. And I find it appalling that the Times News, they can pull stuff off the wire service, but they're really not being investigatory as far as this story is concerned.
And, well, it's not only going to be a disaster this year, but those cows won't have calves next year. It'll be years rebuilding those herds, and probably, according to the national news, a lot of those ranchers won't make it. Kind of hard to insure. Most ranchers have a liability insurance policy, but to insure your cow herd like that is pretty expensive.
Let me throw this at you for a second here, caller, and I always respect your call because you're very, very intelligent and very eloquent in stating your case. But now let me throw this scenario at you, and I want to get your response. Do you think that perhaps one of the big reasons that they're not carrying this on the television, not really making much of a to-do over this on the radio, or not making hardly any press coverage in newspapers, is the fact that it would really set back a lot of the global warming meetings, etc., for a pre-2014 push that they're looking for with the Al Gore types?
You know, I can't address that because, I don't believe in global warming, but I don't know if that's the reason. I think more of the reason would be because the government is shut down. There's no government. The government should be there like a disaster right now, helping with the cleanup.
I agree.
Stop the spread of disease, put some kind of aid package to help those ranchers, and they're shut down and nobody's there to help them, and we don't even have a farm program for this coming year. Maybe we won't even have one. Maybe they'll just renew. Who knows what they're going to do. But I think that's why it's not being played up, because there's nobody there to give them a hand, and they don't want to talk about it.
Well, you could be 100% right on it, and my lovely wife just tried to call, and what was the response? You didn't get an answer with his phone this morning? I know he was trying to get back to Utah, where he lives down in Logan, Utah. We will keep trying, sir, and sometime today or tomorrow, I'll have Marty on first hand, and we'll talk to him again about that devastation. I do appreciate your call, and I'll do all I can to find out more. Thank you.
You betcha.
God bless you, sir. Thanks much. Did you find the number here in my book, Deanne? Did you? Okay. We'll have more on that absolutely tomorrow. We'll get a hold of Marty. I know Marty had called in last week. He was very frustrated because of all the death of these cattle and everything. It was absolutely pathetic. Caller, I'll be right with you. Stand by. Don't forget Middlecoff Ford Lincoln Body Shop in Twin Falls on 1243 Blue Lakes Boulevard in Twin. Wow. I mean, those guys are good. We're going to have a couple of those guys on my program over the next couple of days. They've got well over 50 years of accumulated collision experience in fixing your vehicle up to strive to make your vehicle repairs undetectable. They're that good. Let me tell you, if you've had an accident or a fender bender, go there. I can tell you they can do the job, and it is going to look nice. Middlecoff Ford Lincoln Body Shop, 1243 Blue Lakes Boulevard in Twin Falls. Number to call, tell them Zeb sent you, 736-2490. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Zeb, I hate the Times News. And here's why. I didn't like it when I had a subscription with them because they don't know the truth when they see it. They don't publish what we want to hear. And now they've bought The Voice here in Burley. And guess what? In this week's edition of The Voice, not one anniversary, obituary, missionary report, nothing to do with our community.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Well, here's the thing.
What's wrong with these people?
Well, here's what I want to ask you. And I'm stressing to everybody. I'm going to have them on the air Wednesday at 10 o'clock to 11. Now, we can rant and rave today, but today's not the day to rant and rave. Wednesday is to call in with some very poignant questions as to why they do this or why they don't do that. I'm going to be taking on 3 people from the Times News. I've got a litany of questions and a list of things I want to cover, but you people out there in the audience, the only way you can turn what you consider to be a negative newspaper into possibly being a positive is to call in and voice your opinion. Don't just leave it up to me. You call in.
Well, this is my opinion right now. I think they bought The Voice to take another voice away from the community so that you would have to get your news through the Times News.
Well, I'm not going to make an assumption until I talk to him on Wednesday. I'm looking forward. We're going to have Travis Quast, and we're going to have, what's her name, Amber, I forgot her last name right now. But anyway, we're going to have all 3, we're 3 big shots here on the program from the newspaper, and they're going to be staring and glaring at me and not real happy, but that's okay, because we're going to ask some very poignant questions. Keith, be sure and call in 10 o'clock Wednesday. Voice your concerns. I'll look forward to it.
Can I reach through the phone and get a hold of somebody?
Yeah, just call in like you did now. All right, I got to run. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. My lovely bride just pulled us an update, and this is straight from Fox News this morning as we were checking on. We had thought originally there was about 75,000 head of cattle that had died in the catastrophic snowstorm back in the Dakotas. The number is now going to be far exceeding that. I just have a report that's been handed to me. They're talking well over 100,000 head. I can't even envision that. 100,000 head of dead cattle in that storm, and we're just talking about ranchers, farmers being devastated. There's no way in the world that they can probably come out of this. Most ranchers in the state of South Dakota lost between 50 to 75% of their cattle herds, and there's roughly about 1,500 ranching operations that are probably wiped out. This is pathetic. And the government's shut down, and very possibly Obama's going to go play golf. How sick. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call. Devastating right now. And again, I'm going to go back to this. If there was any Democrats out there in the audience, seriously, I know they listen. Because then they chirp back and forth like a bunch of birds wanting to be fed a worm. They chirp back and forth and they say, well, did you hear what he said that? Did you hear what he did? But they don't have the backbone or the spine to ever call into this program and arbitrate with me. You wouldn't believe the amount of emails, the nasty ones. Oh, yeah, that I get. Or the calls come in on my cell phone, unknown name, unknown number, and they go, you said that, well, why do you feel you can do that, blah, blah, blah. I said, why don't you call in on the air? And then they come up with a whole litany of excuses. They're cowards. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't go away. Ambulatory Surgery Center. 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. For over 14 years, the Ambulatory Surgery Center of Burley has saved area families thousands and thousands of dollars, and the families have received outstanding medical care. This is a first-class medical facility located again at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Call the number 677-8888. Easy to remember, 677-8888 for doctors that really give outstanding care and help save you money at the Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley. And they are also one of our sponsors of School Days on Thursdays, and that's a segment, School Days in Cassia County, Thursdays at 10:10. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. Yeah, this global warming thing's not working real well. We've been below normal almost the full month of October, and I just feel really, really sad for the ranchers. I worked on ranches in the southeast Wyoming, and you just don't, when you lose a herd like that, and we had some losses due to some situation, and it's just sad to see even one critter down, let alone as many you're talking about. But on another subject, I guess you're probably aware that the state exchange which is just a subsidiary of the federal exchange, they're increasing the fees now already, and these high-paid administrators. I mean, it's just the state exchange is a big mess and a big wreck, and we need to really get out of that thing as faster than we can.
Well, hold on a second, Adrian. Let's just back up to square one. Obamacare did this. It wasn't our state legislator, it wasn't our governor, it wasn't anybody's state legislature, it was Obamacare that did this mess. Obamacare was perpetrated to the American public, and I'm going to say this, and you can disagree with me if you wish, but Obamacare was perpetrated to the lessers in our society, those that didn't have, those that were too lazy to work, or those that wanted a handout, and those that expected Obama to be their savior and give them free medical care. Obamacare was supposed to save about 30 million people and give them health care. Well, after all this has been devastated, all this has been done, and private companies are going out of business, private health care coverages are going down the drain, there will still be, even after Obamacare has been implemented, and if it works any way, shape, or form, still 30 million people that will not have health care coverage. So it didn't do any good. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. All it's done is cause havoc, higher taxes, and a complete loss of money.
Well, and the sad part about it is the state fell, I guess, that I say got duped into thinking that they were going to have some kind of control. But when people log on to the state site, they just turn you over to the federal site. So basically, it's a duplication of services. Plus, all of these services are costing a lot of us taxpayers a lot of money here in the state. Those fees are already going up, and the bottom line is that we need to. The whole thing, I think, is designed to fail. I think they knew they spent $600 and some million and couldn't get the computer systems up in 3 years. I think the whole thing was designed to fail in the first place.
Well,
and it'll give Obama an excuse when things get real chaotic, which they're starting to unravel pretty fast, to declare martial law. I mean, that's in the wind right now.
Well, let me just tell you, I talked to my aunt back in Wisconsin over the weekend. And I'm not going to pull punches, and I'm not going to try to cover up or flower up the language. I asked my aunt about her situation and what's going on with Obamacare and the implementation of trying to switch over, etc. And she used 2 words to describe Obamacare. And I'm going to tell you those 2 words. No, seriously, it's very serious. My aunt does not swear, curse, or say any bad language whatsoever. She said, "Damn him." And I think that sums it up.
Well, and absolutely true. And, of course, the state, I think the federal subsidies to the state last for 3 years. Then we're on our own, to so-called implement this thing. But it's basically Obamacare through state administration, and there's really no difference. You really is no difference.
Well, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater yet, because I'm still waiting to see if our state exchange might counteract a lot of the one size fits all with the companies that might be available through the state exchange, in opposition to nothing extra or any frills from Obamacare. But you are right in assuming that this is a mess. Obamacare, look at this. Just think for a minute about this, Adrian. If we didn't have this mess with Obamacare right now, look at all the time, the effort, and the money that could have been spent on solving perhaps Benghazi, or perhaps solving the national debt problem, the funding problem, the IRS problem, etc. This is nothing more than another devastation that Obama thrust upon this country because of his incompetency and his lack of leadership.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Ditto. I mean, the guy was never qualified to be president to begin with. He was a community organizer at best, and of course, the guy is his whole agenda is to destroy this country, destroy the economy of this country. I mean, he's following the blueprint of Saul Alinsky right down to the T. If you get that out, his rules for revolution, my goodness, it's unbelievable. It's right down the line.
I agree with you, and I got to run and do a commercial with the weather forecast right now. But Adrian, thank you as always for your call. Very much appreciated.
Have a good week.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be talking to you. On Thursday we'll have our speaker on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, the weather forecast is brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls, with our old compadre Reese Widmeyer holding on to the reins over there at Sportsman's Warehouse. Oh my, that is the great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. They've got everything over there, all the friendly people, all the top quality gear, including, of course, they've got all your camo, and they've got the range finders, and they got all the high quality binoculars, and they've got all the water purifiers, they've got all the Danner pronghorn boots. I'm telling you, they got it all at Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Here now, Michael Rogers with the weather update.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and believe it or not, how about some nice weather? Especially to start out on a Monday. Sunny, 55 for the high. A little breezy, though. You might want to just carry a sweater just in case. Winds are going to be out of the southwest at about 8 to 10 miles an hour, gusting to about 20. Partly cloudy tonight, 34 for the overnight low. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
I forgot to turn my mic on. There we go. All right, Michael, thank you very much. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Brought to you this hour by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Sitting there talking, and all of a sudden I realized it wasn't going anywhere because I had turned the mic off. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I know this isn't earth-shattering. I know this isn't going to affect the stock markets. Well, it might, somewhat. I know this isn't something that really is going to take the place of the discussion over the debt or the funding for the shutdown, etc. But it teased me off. It teased me off that political correctness has to jump into and be subversive into every form of our life. Last night, caller, stand by. Don't go away. I'll be right with you. Last night, I wanted to reach into the TV set, and I wanted to grab Bob Costas from NBC by the necktie and make him look like a human thermometer. I was extremely upset that he would use, at halftime of the Dallas Cowboys-Redskins game, use halftime of a National Football League game for his bully pulpit to condemn the Washington Redskins moniker, the Redskins, and tell everybody on behalf of the National Football League and all the fans and everything that we should not accept the Redskins name and it should be changed. They have had the Washington Redskins name for over 80 years. And Bob Costas and other pathetic political correctness fans want to come in and lob hand grenades at them now and try to change it, when over 80% of the populace in this country supports the Redskin logo and the Redskin nickname for the team because it is extremely supportive of our American Indians and has always done things first class. If I were owner Daniel Snyder this morning, I would be looking for Bob Costas, and I would invite him to lunch on a boat way out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Need I say more? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I totally agree with that. What I was calling about was I was listening for the trucker demonstration over the weekend, and I didn't hear any news on it. Did that happen?
You know, you bring up an excellent point, and we have been trying to ascertain some information. We don't know whether it was a bust. We don't know whether they had large numbers. We don't know whether they were all stopped by the state police in various areas. I have not, and I've had so many other things to do this morning in regards to the veterans and their march and everything else, and also talking about this funding and the shutdown. I haven't had a chance to really do a lot of checking into it, and but I am going to. Don't worry, I'm not going to just shine it by. I want to find out whether it happened to any degree, or whether it was worthwhile, or whether it was a waste. And as a matter of fact, Deanne is working on that right now, getting some information. And as soon as I get it, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
All right, God bless. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Most Indians, and I'm not going to call them North American natives. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say they're Native Americans. They're no more native than I am. I was born here too. But most of them, to the tune of about 80% or even more, are absolutely against changing the Washington Redskins name, as they are absolutely against changing the Florida State Seminoles college team, or changing the Atlanta Braves, or changing the Chicago Blackhawks, or changing any other name, Cleveland Indians, etc. But there's this small percentage of do-gooders and politically correct people that will not rest until they have stuck the thorns all over the bodies of you and I, and they get their way, and I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning again, Jeb. You know what? I hope Snyder stays with his convictions and says that team's been here 80 years. And remember the old chief and the old cowboy when they act up during halftime?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You betcha. It ain't the Indians that are against it. It's a few half-breeds.
But let me ask you a question. What's going to stop them next? Are they going to, and seriously, why do the Green Bay Packers have the name Packer? What is that in reference to? Go ahead and tell me. Do you know?
It's for slaughterhouse workers.
It's for meat industry.
Right.
All right. Now, are you going to have the animal rights activists say, and by the way, now that we've got the Redskins name changed, we want to do away with the Packer name because it has reference to eating meat and meat. We want that changed. Or are they going to go to any and all sports teams and change the moniker? Are we going to be subservient to these kooks and crackpots that are absolutely bent on our political correctness?
I don't know, but I was so disgusted with that Bob Costas. That little weasel face, he can sit there and spout his mouth off, and he don't know the first damn thing there is about football. He's just a come on. I mean, Mr. Costas, turn your mic off, shut the hell up, and leave the Redskins alone.
Well, now, just back up for a minute, though, because the same little man, which he is a little man, in more ways than just stature and height, Bob Costas was the one that used the bully pulpit at halftime not too many months ago about the complete assault on the school system in Connecticut, and I thought, as did most people, that was completely out of place then. He did it again last night.
I know it. He just can't keep his little weasel mouth shut. Somebody ought to put a foot in it and then start walking down the tracks.
I didn't get a chance to do what I said I was going to do this weekend. I was going to go into a sports shop and buy a Washington Redskins jersey. But now I have heard, as a matter of fact, from a neighbor of yours, that in Salt Lake City, they watched somebody be accosted at a restaurant that was wearing a Washington Redskins jersey, and that's totally out of line. I think it's absolutely stupid, frivolous, and not without any verification whatsoever. We should support them if they're a team fan, and I say don't change the name.
That's right. Don't change the name because the Indians is something to look forward to. The fact is, they was here before we was.
There's nothing derogatory about what they've done. They have never demeaned any and all Indian tribes whatsoever, nor have the Cleveland Indians, nor have the Atlanta Braves, nor have the Florida State Seminoles, or have the Kansas City Chiefs, or have the Chicago Blackhawks. The list goes on and on. There has been nothing to diminish or demonize.
Yep, I know it. Well, We just got to keep her going, Zeb. Because,
all right.
You know, there's not enough people who want to stand up and do what's right. Just go back to the old ways. Well, I don't like this, and I think we ought to change it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all right, Al, buddy, thanks so much. I appreciate it. What are your thoughts out there in the audience? I mean, everybody seems to listen and cater to a couple of squeaky wheels. I won't. I'm not going to change. Certain things that I do and say on this program, I'm going to continue to do and say on this program, regardless of what someone out there in the audience might not like. Someone out in the audience. I've had many, many complaints. I'll tell you this right up front. I've had many, many complaints by certain few out there that when I say God bless, have a good day to certain listeners that call in, almost all of them, some people out there said, how dare you? We don't like to hear that, God bless. That offends us. That's too doggone bad. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget, great big tire sale going on right now at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness sakes, for your light truck and SUVs, they got the Terramax tire right now, smooth handling tire. They've got the Wildcat AT2 for your light truck and SUVs. And for your cars, they got the Ultra Z900 and the Strategy. Oh, my goodness, they got all the tires, all the tread designs, everything you need at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Big, big tire sale right now. Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Poline and Twin Falls, Randy on Overland and Burley. All of these great locations serving you. Big tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Call it quickly. I've got 1 minute left.
Zeb, this is Larry Hanson. I just wanted to thank you. I never did get to say when I was leaving, but anyway, I was just listening to your radio show here in Utah, and just want to say I agree with you on the Redskins. I just don't know why they're even doing that at this point.
How are you, my dear friend? I haven't seen you since we sat in the Rupert Park one day and just kind of sat and visited. How's things going for you, Larry?
Things are going well.
Well, it's such a pleasure to hear from you, and I extend the very best to your family and yourself for the fall going into the winter. And if I don't get a chance to tell you again, we're not that far away, happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Same to you, Zeb.
God bless you, Larry. Thanks for your call.
All right.
Thank you. What a nice man, Larry Hanson. I just absolutely think the world of him. Just one of the nice people. Used to reside right here in this area. We're going to take a break. Be back in 6. Zeb at the Ranch. Frosty's coming up next. Welcome back. Hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday, October 14th, brought to you by our dear friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And don't forget, too, our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at the Georgia shores of Western Waste Services. We care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at Georgia shores of Western Waste Services.
Thank you very much, Western Waste Services. We're going to try to get Kelly on the program here in the next couple of days. They've got all your porta potties. You know that. They've got all the dumpsters in various sizes so you can clean up everything, by golly. And don't forget, too, they've got your trash collection on the route service. Get rid of your garbage. My goodness, they are always at your disposal. They really care. All you have to do to find out about how to get rid of your garbage is call them at 734-6969. That number again, 734-6969. Western Waste Services, absolutely the best. By the way, too, talking about the best, these people have to be included in the conversation, and that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. Joel Heward, the owner and manager. You know, it's such a difficult, hard time, and it just seems like the minutes fly by to get everything done when a loved one passes away. please contact Hanson Mortuary and let them help. They want to meet your expectations and exceed your expectations because they always work with a very high ethical standard with unquestioned integrity in serving you and your family. Please call them today, 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. It is Monday, and that means we get a chance to visit with a gentleman that's one of my dearest friends back in Colorado, and that's Frosty Woolridge. Good morning, Frosty. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. Always a pleasure, sir, and boy, oh boy, I hope everyone's bracing for winter because we've got all sorts of snow and cold weather coming at us. So I'm sure you, being a little bit higher latitude, are also bracing for the onslaught of winter.
Well, I'll tell you something. I just had one of my dearest friends call last week, as a matter of fact, that had been trapped in the Dakotas for over 4 weeks with the devastation of the 4 and 5 foot of snow and over 100,000 cattle dead and over 1,500 ranchers probably out of business. And I would say that it would not be a very wise thing to do if Al Gore were to take a tour of that area and promote global warming.
Well, and then I wouldn't really advise President Barack Obama to tour those areas and tell us that we've got hope and change coming, so it'll all be okay.
Let me ask you this, Frosty, and I'm being very serious when I use this analogy. This is not a funny program this morning, ha-ha. This is a program of sincerity. We're looking at people getting hurt right now because of the stupidity of the shutdown and the stupidity of the debt ceiling, etc. Now, there are those that want to be a political purist. There are people out there that want to just lay it at the feet of certain party members or certain politicians. And I say balderdash. It is not the Democrats. It is not the Republicans. It is the complete lack of leadership by a president in the Oval Office that doesn't know Khmer from Sikkim, and this should have been solved a long time ago if it were a president like John F. Kennedy or a president like Ronald Reagan. This would have never been elongated to this severity. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I would certainly agree, and I want to add a couple other presidents in there. First of all, Teddy Roosevelt would have taken action on this, and certainly I have tremendous respect for George Washington, who really led the nation. Had it not been for a man of his stature, of his intelligence, and his demeanor, who was willing to put his life on the line, and then put his life into this country, we wouldn't be where we are as a great constitutional republic. And right now, there's no question in our mind. We're rudderless. We have 535 Congress critters up there chewing on the fat, just farting around every day, scratching their rear ends and getting nowhere, and they let these crises go right to the limit, and they put all of us in harm's way, one way or the other, and we have an impotent president. And again, we knew that. You and I discussed that. Here is a man who was a community organizer, had questionable degree programs from Columbia and Harvard that no one gets to see or look at, or because they're all sealed, so we don't really know what or who he is, but we do know that he's not doing the job. You know, I'm going to go back to Clint Eastwood. He had that empty chair conversation back there during the campaign, and his empty chair shows that we've got an empty Oval Office that's not showing any kind of leadership, and that is the greatest tragedy for America. And the fact that we elected that guy again makes you wonder what is the electorate of this country. We are the people, we're the bosses, and we elected an incompetent a second time around, and now we're getting the fruition of that. It is exasperating.
Well, you know, and the thing is, Frosty, and I'm glad you're on talking about this morning, because, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to think back to 2007, prior to the presidential elections, Frosty was, and myself, were the lightning rods that the liberal left went after, because we did not like Barack Obama. We did not like his ideology. We did not think he was capable of being anything more than perhaps a Chicago dog catcher from midnight to 6 in the morning. We didn't like him, and we got crucified by the Democratic Party, not only here in the state of Idaho, but all across the United States. They were after both of us. Never once was race involved. Never once was that a factor. It's that we couldn't stand this man and what his ideology was. And now, I'd like to sit down and face some of these accusers that we had and say, hey, how's this administration working out for you?
Well, how is it working out for you, buddy? You know, and I was crucified on I think on CNN, and they made up all sorts of stories. And all I asked and all I said was, we don't know anything about this guy, and he has no credentials whatsoever. That's like what happened with Barack Obama is like taking a kid that played football or baseball or basketball through his junior year, somehow got through high school without studying, didn't have but mediocre grades, got onto a scholarship into college to play football, but sat the bench, didn't do anything, doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't even know how to play the game of football, and yet he just got thrust up into being the coach of an NFL football team. And that's Barack Obama, except he's the coach, he's the president of the United States of America, and he simply lacks the experience, he lacks the background, he even lacks a job.
Yeah.
And yet he is running the biggest corporation in the world, and it's failing under him. Again, Clint Eastwood said it, you know, if the guy's not doing the job, you got to vote him out. And for whatever reason, we somehow, 51% of America, voted him back in. But they also voted in the 535 people who have really carried on incompetence to the highest level, whether it's Harry Reid or Boehner or John McCain or Flack or Boxer or Feinstein, Carl Levin, Schumer in New York. You can go down the line. Hatch in Utah. These people are not carrying on the business of the people, Zeb, and it's just unacceptable that our country has come to this stalemate.
Give me 60 seconds. I've got to do a quick commercial. I'll be right with you, Frosty. Hold on, please. Frosty Woolridge, Golden, Colorado. Don't forget, think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. There is a business that you need to know. There are two gentlemen that can help you, and that's Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens. Accessible, devoted to your needs for all your coverage. Call them today, 436-4424. That number again for the professionals in the insurance industry. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. 436-4424. Also, don't forget my buddy Gentle Ben over at Burley Glass. Make sure that you are energy efficient with your home and check out the atrium windows. It'll give efficiency to your home by 2 to 3 times. Absolutely save money. Burley Glass always working hard to provide great service to all the communities in Magic Valley. Call Gentle Ben today at 678-1459. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland in Burley. Frosty, I'm going to ask you one more question, and I've asked you this and all of my guests on this program at least once every time they're on the air. You know, we can talk about Barack Obama being a community organizer. We can talk about Barack Obama not having any experience and try to meet a payroll or try to work with his employees. We can talk about the laxity of Barack Obama and where he was over all these years of his life. We can talk about how there's a void there about no friends and nobody wants to talk about him, no ex-girlfriends, etc., etc. But you know, there's one question I've had since the very beginning with Barack Obama, and I want answers to. Where did he get all of his money?
And how did he get into Harvard with C's?
Yeah.
Or into Columbia with C's?
Yeah.
And who gave him all the money to get into those colleges? And why hasn't anyone been able to open up those sealed records and find out how he got to apply as a foreign student from Indonesia, where he lived until he was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is corruption at such a high level, and the power stakes are so incredible that everything I mean, whether it's Caesar or whether it's the dictator of Saddam Hussein or whomever, they'll do everything they can to maintain and stay in power, hide the truth, run from the truth, completely subvert the truth. But in the end, this is a constitutional republic brought to us by Jefferson and James Madison and John Adams and all the greats of that time. And this man will be found out. But the key is, will he be found out soon enough in the next 3 years so that he can't destroy more of our country, our constitutional republic, our Second Amendment rights, certainly our First Amendment rights, and will he destroy our economic viability? That's the question. The sooner this man steps down, steps out, or is impeached, the better chance we have to get on with the business of the American people rather than the power elite sitting up there in Washington, D.C., scratching their rear ends and screwing us at every level when it comes to our jobs, when it comes to the security of our country, when it comes to truth, when it comes to personal accountability and personal responsibility. The Congress is failing, and obviously we know that the President's failing.
Well, he comes from a broken home. He comes from parents and or advisors that didn't have money. They didn't have the luxury of great big circular driveways and people opening doors for them. He comes from a no-money background. He goes over to the Middle East, and he supposedly relishes in education and the Muslim Islamic attitude over there. He comes back to this country, he's a student, and then all of a sudden he is propelled into Chicago politics as a senator from the great state of Illinois. Now, you know and I know, Frosty, it takes a little bit of jingle in the old pocket to achieve anything in this world, go anywhere in this world, or to try to promote an ideology in this world. And therein lies the problem. Where did this dude get the money?
That is, of course, the old $64 million question. It's the $1 million question. It's all of those. It's a question, and I'm not sure until, if I had unlimited money, I would get to the bottom of this thing.
Yeah.
If I had Bill Gates money, I would absolutely go after the personal records of Obama. I would go after, the Social Security alone, his Social Security number is fraudulent. It's fraudulent. It's a fact that it's fraudulent. And then that therein is part of the fraudulence that's going on here, because he never set foot in Connecticut. And that's his Social Security number. He was never there. He never worked there. You only get a Social Security number where you are. And so, again, this has been, I will say that we are being scammed as a people and as a country right now. This may be the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the American people, and that's the present President of the United States of America. And I think the truth will come out at some point, and it will all be exposed. And again, the question is whether it will be exposed before he completely ruins our country and takes us down a path that we cannot recover from.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, my dear friend, that when we started attacking him and his ideology, etc., and we don't like him, I'll speak for myself, I detest the man because I don't trust him. But what has this man ever done? What has this man ever achieved? What has this man ever really worked hard for and helped other people with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And there are people in the audience right now this minute listening, whether they're driving up and down the interstate or whether they're in their house having a cup of coffee, or whether they're in their shop, and they're hating you and I and saying, why, those two racists, they don't like him just because he's black. You know something, Frosty? I don't like him because he's a man with a perverted ideology.
Well, he's a man who's a liar. I mean, that's the bottom line. Whether it's his selective service number that has been was never there, he never registered from all the evidence thus far, whether he has a false Social Security number, the fact that he wrote 2 books that were ghost-written and that have no timeline verification whatsoever. I've been on other shows, Peter Boyle's at 710 KNOS in Denver, who has absolutely shown that Barack Obama didn't write those books, and nothing in those books is true. So you have a proverbial liar, and you have the results of no actions for the last almost 5 years now in office. In fact, the food stamp fiasco, it went from 36 million people on food stamps when he got into office. Now, it was at the 47 million.
Yeah.
I just checked last night. It's now 48.1 million Americans subsisting on food stamps. Obviously, the president is not doing too much to make hope and change worthwhile and valid in this country when you've got 48.1 million Americans subsisting on food stamps. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. And and I never had any dislike for Barack Obama at first whatsoever. I just questioned the fact that he had no experience, he had no background. He was forced to give up his law license because of some of his unscrupulous activities in the Chicago arena. He had to give up his law license, and I think his wife, Michelle, had to give up law license also, because they were both in the crosshairs of having their law licenses revoked anyway. So we got a bunch of stuff going on here. And again, if I had the money, I would be the investigative reporter. I'd be the new David Halberstam, and I'd write the new book, Best and Brightest, which exposed the falsities and everything else about the Vietnam War. I would expose Barack Obama for what he is, but somebody will at some point. They will, and this man will be found out, and you and I will be vindicated. And we're certainly not racist.
Absolutely.
Some of my dearest friends that I work for are black, and one of my dearest friends of 23 years is Hispanic. I mean, I'm sorry, racism doesn't work. It doesn't cut it. The truth does. And you and I stand for the truth. That's all there is to it, and that's what we're looking for here.
I've only got about 3 minutes left, but I want to, and again, this is in seriousness. It's not a lighthearted topic. It's very serious, because political correctness in this country has absolutely reached the stage of pulling everybody into the same toilet. I am adamant against anything that might change the Washington Redskins football name in the name of political correctness. This society is going crazy with a small percentage of people that if they don't like something or they don't agree with something, they cry like little babies that need their diapers changed, and they are the squeaky wheel that politicians listen to. And last night, talking about crying little babies, little Bob Costas on NBC at halftime, using the halftime of an NFL game between the Cowboys and the Redskins as his bully pulpit to demonize the Redskins for their name, when over 80% of Americans want to leave it alone. Frosty, this has got too far. Are they going to stop when, maybe look at the Packers, okay? I used this analogy last hour. The Packers were named after meatpacking company. Are the animal rights liberators going to say, well, that's after a meatpacking company and we've got to stop meat usage and eating it, so we're going to demand the Packers change their name? In other words, where does it stop, Frosty?
Well, and as I've said, and I would encourage everyone to go to News with Views this morning, and I gave a 45-minute interview of where our country is headed by Michael Opitz and Christina Jeffrey on the Madison Forum. And I can tell you this, we are getting so fractured because of mass immigration. Pretty soon you're going to have the Somalians, or you're going to have the Sudanese, or obviously you're having the Mexicans. They want Spanish. Mexicans at some point are going to take over and become the new majority by 2042, ladies and gentlemen. That means the European Americans are going to become the minority. Who do you think is going to push for a complete change of language in our country? And will it be politically correct to fight them to say that English is the main language of this country? I'm reading a new book, Zeb, and I'm going to do more reports on this, and you and I can go over this, but it's Samuel P. Huntington's The Clash of Civilizations. And this book is profound in what it shows, how cultures clash and then languages clash, and how we're now starting to clash among ourselves and against ourselves as we jump the four tribes: the African American tribe, the Middle Eastern Muslim tribe, the European American tribe, and of course the Mexican tribes that are now engulfing this country. You better believe it, we're in serious trouble, and political correctness won't solve the boiling cauldron that's underneath all of this. And at some point, when we start having a lack of food and or water in our cities, and as I said, this new bill, 744, is going to jump another 100 million immigrants into this country in the next 37 years. Do you think we're going to have peace and quiet and a beautiful bouquet? We're going to be lucky to be able to water, feed, work, house, and warm and transport another 100 million immigrants in this country. So you better believe it. We're in deep trouble. Political correctness is going to get really ugly on many levels.
I agree. Frosty, it just goes too fast. I really do appreciate your remarks this morning. A half hour's gone already. Frosty Woolridge, Golden, Colorado. Take care, my dear friend. Look forward to next Monday. God bless you.
Yes, sir. We'll bring it, sir.
All right, sir. Right with you. Thank you so much. Frosty Woolridge in Golden, Colorado, and he is spot on. I appreciate his remarks. Don't forget our friends at Scow's CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts Center and Scow's Truck Center over in Hayburn. Now, here's the deal, and you'll see their signs up. Scow's CarQuest in Rupert, and they're located at 323 East 8th State and Street and Highway 25, over in Rupert. Then Scow's CarQuest over in Burley, 518 Overland, and then Scow's Truck Center, of course, over in Hayburn. Holy cow, they've got everything for you. They've got all your motor oils. They have got all your Prestone or Prestone Dex Cool concentrates. Get ready for winter. Antifreeze coolant for just $13.99. Everything, always, every detail matters for your vehicle, your cars, your pickups, your trucks. And, of course, Scow's CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts, and, of course, the CarQuest of Burley and Rupert, and Scow's Truck Center in Hayburn. Always serving you since 1949. Every detail matters. Ladies and gentlemen, too, if you've got questions for the Wednesday show of Scow's CarQuest with our answer man, Jeff Poole, don't forget to get those questions to me, zebittheranch@hotmail.com. We've got a lot of questions we're going to be asking him about your maintenance and everything else. Don't forget, that's Wednesdays at 9:30. Thank you very much. Hey, also, I want to remind you, too, that Ramsey Heating and Electric is offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Yes, sir, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money. At Ramsey's, they sell warm winters and cool summers as they have for over 54 years. One thing to remember, too, before we go to our next guest is our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. We were talking to Jeff last week over at Lee's Furniture in regards to all the mattresses. My goodness, they're having a closeout on all the mattresses. And also, they've got all the recliners. And Jeff said they have the largest selection of recliners anywhere, anytime. And I suggest whether you're tall, whether you're short, whether you're skinny, whether you're a little bit heavy like I am, then you just go in there and try one on. You're absolutely going to find the one that fits you the best. All the recliners at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and our next guest is ready to come on the program, and he's going to be talking about a subject that I know, I can tell you right up front right now, is going to make me very, very upset, because there seems to be a big push in this country to stop anybody or anyone from praying. And when I heard this story that's going on in Tennessee, I was just livid. Good morning, Matt Sharp, legal counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Deb?
Well, Matt, I'm not going to lie to you anymore, and I'm certainly not going to anymore. I never have. But anyway, I'm certainly not going to turn the other cheek either. When it comes to praying, there is not one human being on earth big enough and tough enough to stop me from praying. What's going on in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah, just about a week and a half ago, the ACLU, our favorite group, was at it again, and they sent a letter to every school district in the state of Tennessee complaining about the long-standing tradition that a lot of schools have of allowing a student to give a pregame prayer over the intercom, over the PA system at sporting events and whatnot. And the ACLU is getting smarter and trickier in their strategy because they know the law is not on their side on this issue. So what they did in their letter is lay out all of these court cases and whatnot, and then rather than tell schools what they can do and what is constitutionally allowed, they just kind of make these broad claims that, well, you can never have school-sponsored prayer, and we're going to ostracize students and community members and parents that may not want to pray and all of this. And so they left schools with the unmistakable impression that no prayer is ever allowed at any sporting event at the start of a football game or anywhere else.
Matt, a couple of people, very, very, very minuscule numbers of people, have complained. My question to you, as a legal counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom, Why are we catering to these small numbers? Why are we afraid of these small numbers? In days gone by in this country, we would have said, full steam ahead, get out of the way, we will not step around, but we will step over you.
Yeah. We're getting where you've got the tyranny of the minority, where you've got, just like you said, a handful of people that are now dictating everything that happens in public schools and in government and all of this. Everyone else who shares Christian beliefs and whatnot is forced to cater and censor and be silenced because of the demands of a few minority that don't like these practices. And so when the ACLU in their letter talks about, a student or parent or community member being ostracized and excluded if they don't want to pray, what about the hundreds and thousands of others who are denied the right to pray?
Yeah.
What about the student that wants to get together with his teammates and huddle at the 50-yard line before the game and pray together for the safety, for good sportsmanship? What about those guys? How come they're excluded? How come they're ostracized for wanting to just share their beliefs, to pray before the start of a football game? Or the kid that's selected for valedictorian at graduation, and up there as part of his speech, he wants to say a prayer to acknowledge God's hand on his or her success, praying for blessings for his or her classmates. What about that student? Why are they excluded? Why are they ostracized from doing that? So that's my question, is why is the minority now able to dictate what the majority is allowed to do to express their beliefs?
Matt, I said this last hour, even before we started talking about this topic, but I said it last hour as a point of interest. Many times on the program, and you've heard me say it to you because you've been on this program many, many times. At the end of our conversation, I'll say, thank you very much, Matt Sharp, God bless, have a good day. And I have had a lot of criticism and a lot of mean-spirited letters and calls to me, etc., emails, condemning me for saying God bless to people. They don't want to hear that on the radio, and I'm going to do it even more so. I'm not going to be legislated to as to what I can say with my First Amendment rights, and I'm not going to be legislated to as to my lessening my belief in God. But the ACLU said and told school administrators and teachers they cannot organize, encourage, or engage in prayer exercises in the classroom or at school-related events. Now, to me, that absolutely goes against the First Amendment rights of free expression, because if I want to pray, there's nobody big enough and tough enough to stop me.
Yeah, our country has such a rich tradition of prayer. Our founding fathers did it. I was looking just last week at the First Continental Congress and the prayer they offered up as they are deciding to declare independence and praying for, God's hand on the field, even on the field of battle. And I think that's so appropriate when you've got issues of prayer at school, when you've got students wanting to pray for safety on the football field and whatnot, and you've got some faculty members wanting to meet before school and have a faculty Bible study. They've got the First Amendment right to do that. They've got the First Amendment right to pray for one another, to have a Bible study. And so when I see the ACLU trying to badger these groups and badger school officials and students and everyone into silencing their prayers, it flies in the face of everything the First Amendment is meant to do, which is to protect religious expression, to protect the right of free speech. And it doesn't matter if it offends somebody. I've read the First Amendment a few times. I know you're a student of the First Amendment, Zeb, and know it backwards and forwards. And I've never read anywhere in there that it says there's a right to not be offended. And that's the thing. These groups want to come out there and say, well, you're offending somebody if you do this. And someone might be offended if they hear you pray, or they might be offended if they hear you say God bless on the radio. That's the price of free speech. The price of free speech is there's going to be people say things that I don't like, but I'm going to defend their right to say it, because the response to speech that offends me or that hurts my feelings is not to censor the speaker. It's to respond with more speech. That's the beauty of the First Amendment, that it forces ideas to compete in the marketplace of ideas, and the best ideas to come out on top, and the best beliefs come out on top. And that's where, as Christians, I like to see more prayer and more debate and discussion, because I know at the end of the day, if Christianity is true, and I believe it is, then it's going to come out on top.
Matt, I'm so glad you brought that up about the First Amendment, because I think what I'll do right now, with your permission as a guest on the show, is read, and it's very short. For those that might not be familiar with the exact wording of the First Amendment, it states as such: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress or grievance. You see, if I'm a coach and I want to say a prayer before that game, I have, in my opinion, the free exercise thereof and that First Amendment behind me, and I pity the ACLU or anyone else that would step in my path and try to stop me.
Yeah, you know, one of our big gripes with the ACLU, when they do these letters, all they say is, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And it's just like you said when you read the First Amendment. It doesn't talk about what you can't do. It talks about what the government can't do to censor the private expression of citizens, of individuals, of students, of parents, of teachers, of coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And yet what the ACLU wants to do in its letters is tell students and coaches and teachers and et cetera, what they can't do. And so what we did in our response that we sent out to every school district is we said, ACLU's telling you what you can't do. We're telling you what you can do. Mm-hmm. Let us help you set up a model policy so that what the schools can do is have a time at the beginning of a game where a student's chosen to give a pregame message. And if the student wants to get up there and just give a pep talk, they can do that. If they want to get up there and read a poem about bravery or whatever, they can do that. And if they want to get up there and say a prayer, they can do that.
Yeah.
And the beauty of something like that is it goes back to the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. The student gets to choose what to say. And if a student wants to express their religious belief and offer a thanks to God and protection for everybody, then it's their speech, and the First Amendment protects that. The ACLU, they don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
And so they talk about you can't, you can't, you can't. And we want to let schools know what they can. And that's why I love reading the First Amendment, because I think we need reminders every now and then what we can do and what the government can't do.
Let me ask you a question here, though, Matt. Are they going to, and I know this might be far-fetched, but explain this to me. Are they, the SCLU and these other nitwits, are they going to send out little prayer police in the form of undercover policemen and take down names and tape record things and then go, yes you did, you did this, we're going to throw you in jail? I mean, how severe can they get with this?
Absolutely. I think they have done that, and I think they'll continue to do that, because how we always see these letters and things pop up is ACLU or Freedom from Religion or one of those groups will all of a sudden have this undercover videotape and some anonymous community member, and it's always the same story. Well, this person doesn't want to come forward because of fear of being ostracized and excluded from the community and whatnot. And I'm thinking, here's a person that's coming out and trying to censor everybody else, and they're wanting to hide behind anonymity to do so. And that's exactly what they do. That they go in undercover, they take these video things, trying to gotcha moments, and then use that to scare school districts into censoring students from praying before games and things like that. And so I fully suspect they'll continue to do it, and that's why we want to get involved and help schools, because we know that we can help them set up constitutional and defensible policies that respect the rights of students, not try and censor those rights. And so that even when someone tries to come along with a secret camera and do a gotcha, schools have nothing to fear because the law is on their side and ADF is on their side.
Absolutely. But now, wait a minute. Let me ask you a question here. I'm not a lawyer. Don't you, as the accused, have the right to know your accuser if it gets dragged all the way to the courtroom? How can these people hide behind their little cell phones?
That's exactly right. You know, they come, and we've seen this in court cases where they'll say, well, we don't want to disclose our identity or something like that. And you're absolutely right. How am I supposed to know, and how's a school or someone else that's accused in one of these lawsuits, how are they supposed to be able to question the person, ask them, were they there, what happened, what is their offense? So all of these people that try and hide behind it, if they're so convinced in the rightness of their cause, why not put their face out there? Why not put their name out there? You've got school districts and students that are willing to stand up for their rights, and we represent them all across the country, and they put their names on the lawsuit, and they say, if our rights are being violated, then we know the law protects us, and we're not going to hide behind it. We know some people will disagree with it, but if we're willing to take steps to defend our rights, we're going to put our name and our face out there. So when these groups and individuals try and hide behind it, that tells me they may not that much believe in their cause that much.
Are you surprised, Matt, that this is happening more or less in the Bible Belt of America, especially in the state of Tennessee? I would expect it like in New Hampshire or Massachusetts or another state like that, but not Tennessee. Doesn't that surprise you a little bit?
You know, it does and it doesn't. On one hand, it is the Bible Belt, and you know, so many schools there have this rich tradition of pregame prayer and whatnot. And so, on one hand, it surprises me that they would target that, but on the other hand, I can see them going after it, because to groups like the ACLU and Freedom from Religion, the Bible Belt's a threat. You still got freedom of religious expression going on there. You've still got free speech going on there. You've got Bible clubs that are active, and you've got teams praying together before games. And to these atheist groups, that's a threat. And so you're going to target your biggest obstacle. You're going to go after whatever thing's the most threatening to you. And so that's why it doesn't surprise me to see them starting to go after these schools. They've already kind of got their agenda out there in some of those fringe places, and I think they're moving towards more mainstream America, and they're thinking that they can come in and send all these letters and threaten over 150 school districts across the state. Maybe they'll get these school districts to cave in, and that's why we're standing firm with these school districts and saying, don't cave in. The law's on your side, and we're here to help.
All right, now here we go, Matt. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to listen right now. Okay, you got your radios up? Here we go. God bless you, Matt Sharp, and I pray in Jesus' name that you and your associates have a very blessed day. Now, ACLU, if you didn't get this, call for a recording at my office, and have a wonderful day.
That's absolutely right. And I join with you. God, Zeb, and your listeners, and the work you do in getting the message out there and encouraging people to stand for their rights to freedom of speech, to freedom of religion, to know the First Amendment and be willing to defend those rights.
Matt Sharp, tell everybody real quick about Alliance Defending Freedom. Where can they go to find out more information?
Absolutely. We're a nonprofit law firm. We defend the right of Christians to freely live out their faith. They can learn more about our cases and how to support us at alliancedefendingfreedom.org. And if something comes up and they're being threatened by the ACLU, give us a call. We're here to help.
All right, Matt, come back soon. Thanks so much for all your help.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. You bet. Matt Sharp, Alliance Defending Freedom Legal Counsel, and I'm telling you, folks, these ACLU types and others, little worms and weasels, telling you and I that we can't pray. Oh, we're going to get you. We're going to go after you. You said a prayer before that golf match, or you said a prayer before that basketball game. We're going to get you. Oh, please. Crawl back underneath your rock. Time for the weather, please, right now. Michael Rogers Weather, brought to you by Red's Trading Post at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Oh, my goodness sakes, the people at Red's know all about guns and all the ammo and all the accessories, all the holsters. Everything you need is right there at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, in historic Old Town Twin Falls since 1936. The best with Ryan Horsley and the crew at Red's Trading Post. And right now, here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and believe it or not, how about some nice weather? Especially to start out on a Monday. Sunny, 55 for the high. A little breezy, though. You might want to just carry a sweater just in case. Winds are going to be out of the southwest at about, 8 to 10 miles an hour, gusting to about 20. Partly cloudy tonight, 34 for the overnight low. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go, Michael. Brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Oh, we'll take calls and questions and answers and dilemmas, whatever. Give us a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587 in the remainder of this hour. I want to remind you that next week on the 24th, we're going to have our October lunch bunch at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery at 800 North Overland in Burley. Oh, I am looking forward to that. Had a wonderful meal last month, our first month there at Perkins, and believe me, they have a slogan that says, where we believe in being best buds with your taste buds. How true, how true. And they've got all the pies. Oh, they've got all the pies, and they've got all the muffins, like the raspberry and cream mammoth muffins over there. Oh, great bakery, Everything is delicious. Please come join us next week on the 24th for Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, 800 North Overland in Burley. Really great people. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd sure like to hear from you, so give us a jingle on the landline, if you would, please. And we'd like to hear what you have to say on this Columbus Day 2013. Yeah, I'll ask you the question, too. After all this to-do and all this balderrah about changing the name purely for political correctness of the Washington Redskins, where does it stop? Where does it stop? Next, we're going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. Next, we'll go to the Atlanta Braves. Next, and then they'll pretty soon find a fence, like I said, with the Green Bay Packers. Next, they probably will go after something else because they always have to have their way. Caller, be right there. Let's ride. Don't forget, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my goodness, they're open Tuesdays through Saturdays. That's where the fun is sold. It's time to clean house at Let's Ride. They've got generators, lawnmowers, power equipment, great prices, snowmobiles. Oh, boy, you better get over there and check them out. All the new models coming in and the best doggone parts and service department anywhere, anytime. They can figure out the problems and get them fixed. It's a great place where the fun is sold. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. You stop over Tuesdays through Saturdays. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I want to state my opinion on the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm more offended with the Washington than the Redskins.
Well stated, my friend. Well stated. No, but in all seriousness, Doug, this is a lot more serious, quote unquote, than just changing the nickname of a football team or a basketball team or a baseball team. This is control. These are small amounts of people that just want absolute control, and it's time to stand up and spit in their eye.
It is. It is. They've been, for the last 50, 60 years, taking our rights away just one bale at a time out of the haystack, and now that haystack's getting down there to where there's not much left, and it's time for us to say there's going to be no more taken out of it.
Yeah.
We're done. We're through.
Well, and I don't care what team it is or what affiliation a name has to a certain group or whatever. I dare you to tell me. I dare you to tell me that not somebody's going to get out of the wrong side of the bed in the morning and have an offense to whatever's happening or being said.
That's true. That's true. I found you can't make everybody happy, but you can make everybody mad.
Oh, and I enjoy that. But no, seriously, if they cave, if Daniel Snyder caves on the Washington Redskins name and logo, and then I will bet you a steak dinner, but you're going to end up losing. I know that it'll be the Braves, it'll be then the Kansas City Chiefs, it'll be the Chicago Blackhawks, it'll be a snowball effect. You cannot start capitulating to these people because they will have you in the palm of their hand.
They will. And then next, the vegetarians are going to go out and say, well, you're degrading the cows with the cheese heads because you're using cows to make cheese, and you're going to go after the Broncos and the Jaguars. Everything's going to have to be named a vegetable.
Yeah. I just, and we're not being facetious here. I am not trying to be facetious at all because it's not funny. It's absolute in seriousness because these weirdos, these absolute ne'er-do-wells, will do anything to have all the control over everybody.
Yeah. We're in a republic that says the minority rules.
I certainly hope and pray that Daniel Snyder keeps the name. And I hope for the minority, the extreme minority of people that are against it, I hope they stay offended for the rest of their lives, because don't change it.
No, and I heard this morning on the news that they'd done a survey of the American Indians, and 9 out of 10 were not offended at all.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, and I've said this before on the air, and I can prove it. Florida State University, with their moniker and logo of the Seminole Indians, the Seminoles are making big money off of Florida State calling themselves the Seminoles, and I'll guarantee you'll see another Custer's Last Stand if the government tries to change it.
This is true.
All right, my friend. God bless you, man. Thanks.
You have a great day.
Thank you. You know, and that's the ironic part about this, you know. Just really, instead of listening to these frayed ends that absolutely have the combined IQ of a hockey puck, why don't they talk to people like the Seminole Indian tribe down in Florida? Oh, no. They don't want the Florida State Seminoles to change the name of that university. Not in the least. They make buku big bucks off of that name. Back to the tribes. Don't forget A Child's World, and they are one of our co-sponsors of Cassia County School Days every Thursday right here on Zeb at the Ranch, and they've got everything. You don't want to just jump outside and go shopping? Well, you don't have to. You can just go online and shop at childsworldinburley.com. childsworldinburley.com. And they've got all the baby items, and they've got all the games, and they've got all the Cherokee scrubs and everything else. Oh, my! Hurry up, check it out online, and then go down to the store and say, wow, you've got everything I'm looking for at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And like I said, they are one of our co-sponsors of Cassia County School Days on Thursday right here at Zeb at the Ranch. All right, give us a call, 436-2244-1866-927-4587. I haven't asked Gina this. You know, that's not fair because she is a very, very avid football fan. Do you think I'm wrong in my statements here this morning?
Absolutely not. I don't know why should they change the name. I honestly went back throughout the history of the NFL, and the Redskins, I do believe, have always been the Redskins. So why change
80 years. 80 years.
Why change it?
Let me tell you a quick scenario, and I think I've shared this story with you before. When I started at Fort Atkinson High School back in the early 60s, it used to be known by the vicious, mean, scary name Fort Atkinson Cardinals. It struck fear in the hearts of everybody. And we had amazingly poor teams my freshman, sophomore year. We were so bad that the water guy on each team could beat our starting five. I mean, in basketball or whatever. Then all of a sudden, the students got together and they said, no, we want to change the name of the school. And we want to honor the Blackhawk Indian tribe that had fought the great big Fort Blackhawk wars back in early 1830s in and around Fort Atkinson with General Atkinson. Long story short, they changed it. It was absolutely in honor of Chief Blackhawk, and we became the Fort Blackhawks. And the first year we changed the name, we won the state championships.
See, isn't that amazing how a name and a mascot can change the entire mentality?
Yeah. We have a call?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, closer to home, Zeb, there's the University of Utah running Utes.
Yeah.
Which is where I went to school. And the university down there has told the tribe, the elders of the Ute tribe down there, that if they ever want them to stop using the name, they will stop that day.
You're kidding me.
No, they've told them that. If they want them to stop using it, they will stop. But the Utes have told the university that they feel they're using it honorably, that they're not doing anything to make the Indians look bad, so they want them to continue. Now, the University of Utah does not pay the Ute tribe anything for the use of the Ute name.
Yeah, but now listen.
They do provide scholarship.
Hold on just a second. Let's look at reality here for just a minute. The running Utes just knocked the daylights out of number 5 Stanford in a football game Saturday, and you can bet your bottom dollar and a milkshake that the running Utes are pretty darn proud of having their name used for the University of Utah.
That was a great game. I watched that, of course.
Yep.
I enjoyed that a lot, but yeah, they're really sensible in the way they use it. They used to use an Indian student dressed up in war regalia come out in the middle of the field and throw a spear into straw bale, but they don't do that anymore. And they've changed their mascot from being an Indian, as far as somebody dressed up as an Indian, into a bird.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, sir, that there was nothing more majestic, there was nothing more colorful, and there was nothing more that honored the heritage when the Florida State Seminoles had that chief ride out into the football field with that Appaloosa horse and that spear, that war spear, and threw it into the football field. Let me tell you something. Everybody stood with pride for the Florida State Seminoles.
In the case of the University of Utah, they used a real Ute Indian.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't some white guy dressed up. There was a real Ute
Absolutely.
Indian.
My feeling is if you capitulate and bend for these people, you're going to have to bend over and stay bent over because they'll take control of everything.
What I don't understand is why are they complaining? If they have the blessing of the Ute tribe or the Seminole tribe, it's none of their business.
Yeah, but it's money. It's money. They get money, and they're going to go to court. They're going to win these court cases. They're going to end up with settlements in their favor, their little minority favor. It's all money, and it's all control. Our whole society today, you got to agree with me, is nothing more than money and control.
True. Thank you.
God bless you, sir. Thanks. Very good point, the running Utes. See, the Stanford used to have the Indian quote-unquote moniker, the Stanford Indians, before they changed to the Stanford Cardinals. And the running Utes kicked their butts this last weekend. The Utes beat Stanford, and Stanford was number 5 in the nation. Go Utes. Proud of you. We're going to take a little break. Gina and I might talk more about this. You never know. We're going to talk to Representative Fred Wood about the state of politics in our country coming up next. And then at 10:30, don't miss Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. Going to be good. See you in 6. They sure want a lot of changes. I'll be darned. I'll ask Gene about that in just a minute. Good morning. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our friends like our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service 734-6969. We've got a guest coming up in just a minute. Gina, real fast, short answer. I don't like the idea of a business dictating all those speed changes and everything else. What do you think?
I don't like it either,
Yeah.
so I'll do a little bit more investigation on that one.
I also. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're going to have our guest with us momentarily. Don't forget, too, Ramsey Heating and Electric can offer rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump. Your family will enjoy the comfort. As a Lennox independent dealer, as they have been for over 53 years, Ramsey's know the climate, and they know the equipment, and they've done the shopping for you. Call them today at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Hey, if you're getting hungry, don't forget the Chadwick Sports Grill. Oh my, what's the special for today? Well, I'll tell you, they've got a luncheon special for just $5.95, and then they've got a senior special from 4 to 6 p.m. every Monday through Thursday. And Deanne did a little checking on this, by the way. They're going to have today from 4 to 6 for just $5.95 chicken, and I hope I say this right, paprikash with mashed potatoes, veggies, and super salad. It's a Hungarian dish. Really sounds good at the Chuckwagon. I lost this sponsor. Chadwick Sports Grill. I'm sorry. Anyway, the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Great food, nice people. I was in there the other night. Really enjoyed it. I made a faux pas. And here's a man that never makes any faux pas. He is Representative Fred Wood, a member of our state legislature. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you?
Well, evidently not very good. I just made a big faux pas, but those things happen.
Zeb, if that's the worst thing that ever happens to you, you're going to be just fine.
Fred, I am so glad and honored to have you on the program because I have a lot of respect for your demeanor, your personality, and your answering of questions. You've always been very forthright and honest. And my question is today, the state of American politics absolutely seems to be in the gutter. We're not getting anything done. It's turned into a real hateful, bitter, partisan movement, and nothing like it was when I was growing up. What are your thoughts about the state of politics in the United States?
Well, it certainly has seemed to deteriorate significantly, Zeb. I can remember becoming involved in politics, or at least paying attention to politics, starting back in the early 60s. And, it just seems that, it seems that even the most partisan people back in the 60s and 70s at least went to the state houses and at least went to Washington, D.C., understanding that they had to govern, and decisions had to be made. You know, it seems now like a whole bunch of people want to go to the state house around the country, state houses around the country, and they want to go to Washington, D.C., but they don't have any intention of solving problems or governing. And I think that's one of the main problems, or one of the main issues that's contributing to the problems we see today.
Well, let me ask you this, and you and I are of the same age generation. I can remember vividly the Hubert Humphreys. I can remember vividly the Barry Goldwaters. I can remember vividly the Adlai Stevensons. I can remember the partisan politics and the outrage and the madness and the meanness, but they got something done, as opposed to nothing stalemated today. How do you describe the differences?
Well, I think I would describe them best. There was an article in the paper a couple of 3 days about Sam Rayburn. And Sam Rayburn was a Democrat, if I remember correctly, and the longest-serving Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. And he lost his, after he'd been Speaker for 17 years, the Republicans lost the House, and he became the minority leader. Mm-hmm. And it had his reaction in there. He got his caucus together and said, we're no longer in the majority, but we still have to govern this nation. So we will get what we can get, but in the end, we have to have a nation that functions, and we have to have a government that functions. So let's get on with the business of governing. And you don't see that today. What you see is when somebody loses, they spend all of their energy trying to undermine the other side. Mm-hmm. And Zeb, it doesn't make any difference whether you win or lose. At the end, we have to govern, and we're not seeing that.
Absolutely.
Particularly out of Congress. You're seeing that in the Idaho legislature because the leadership there requires they understand that we have to govern. They understand we have to pay our bills in the long run. They have to understand that in the end, we have to have a functioning government. Whether we agree with it or not, it still has to function. And Congress, I'm afraid, doesn't see it that way.
When you say functioning government, though, Fred, that means that both parties have to come together, and there's got to be give and take, and there's got to be some kind of a competition, but yet they have to make it so that it's right for the American people. Therein lies the problem. When I look at the Harry Reids, and when I look at even the John Boehners and others, I see a lack of respect for we the people, the first 3 words of the Constitution. I think these people have lost sight, really, who they're working for.
I would agree with you. And I think it points to the fact that people are worried about winning and losing as opposed to actually making decisions and then getting on down the road. I think that all of leadership back there literally is disrespectful of the Constitution and the legislative process. In the legislative process, you try to compromise as much as you can to get where you can get. And I've always been one of those that have felt that to govern, you have to get, you have to compromise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And nobody gets everything they want. That simply is not going to happen when you try to bring sides together to govern. And I've always felt that 60 or 70 or 80% of a loaf is a whole lot better than 100% of no loaf at all. That just doesn't work.
When you look at the situation today, and I'm so honored to have you address these issues, because I've always known you to be a very fair individual. But when you look at these issues today with the Democrats versus the Republicans, and then sitting in the Oval Office, Obama, and little by little the leaks come out about how Obama wants to use this strategy and this tactic to bury the Republican Party or make it just as tough on the people of the United States so that they'll blame the Republican Party. That is nothing more than vindictiveness, hatred, and a despising of what our country stands for. I put a lot of the blame, or most of the blame, on Obama himself.
Well, he certainly has been a divider as opposed to a uniter. But I'm here to tell you, there's more than enough blame back there, Zeb, to go around. I mean, Boehner, Harry Reid, Pelosi, and the minority leader in the Senate, whose name will come to me in a second. But I'm here to tell you that all four of those people are just as irresponsible as the next one is. Because somebody should have said, you know, we're not going to play this game. Okay? We're simply not going to get in this game. Now, let's all go down somewhere and lock the door. And, I mean, this should have been done months ago. And say, okay, just exactly how are we going to get out of this mess we're in? And let's get it resolved. Now, I'm willing to give and take, but everybody else has to be willing to give and take. And I'm afraid that, yeah, Obama's not willing to give and take, but you know what? The other four people aren't either.
Yeah.
And you know, there's more than enough blame, and I'm disgusted with the whole lot of them. I really am.
Fred, the other day, I had Tom Tancredo on my program, former congressman from Colorado and also now running for governor of the state of Colorado. And I asked him this question, and he told me, he said, Zeb, you know what? I haven't thought of it that way, but you may be right. Here's my question to you. Obamacare was submitted, all 2,900 boring, absolutely devastating to read pages, to the Supreme Court to pass or to not pass legally, whether it could be imposed on the American public. They said, thanks to John Roberts' vote, yes, it was. But then, at that juncture, Fred, that's when Obama took it over and changed it and amended it 19 times after the Supreme Court had said, yes, go ahead with it. Now, doesn't that null and void the document in itself because it was changed after the Supreme Court looked at it and the president really didn't have the power to do it at that juncture? Shouldn't it be stopped and shouldn't it be rewritten and then the Supreme Court look at it again without Obama getting his paws on it?
Well, I don't know about the changes that were made. The only change that I am aware of is the delaying of the mandate for large businesses in terms of having to undergo the penalty. And I don't know whether or not they had the ability to do that. If they didn't have the ability to do that, then it shouldn't go into effect. I'm talking about the delay, et cetera. But, you know, I know you and I had a conversation about the Affordable Care Act, et cetera.
Yes.
And in my opinion, there is more good in that than there is bad. There is a bunch of things that need to be changed with it. And what they need to do is just like what they should do with the budget. They should get together and say, here's all the bad things with it. Now, we're going to change those. But the good things with it, particularly the insurance reforms, and there's a perfect example of what I've been working on over the weekend and this morning about oral chemotherapy parity. Which I don't want to get out in the weeds on that, Zeb. We don't have time. But for people who are stricken with cancer, and if there are certain medications that cost $100,000 a year or more, there is a provision in the Affordable Care Act that says that insurance companies can no longer deny that treatment. And so those are the kinds of good things that happened out of that act. And so You can't throw those away, Deb.
No, I agree.
That's wrong.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Fred, on that, totally. But then on the other hand, I think you have to also agree with me that they were never highlighted because almost 99% of the people didn't know what was in the bill originally anyway.
I agree 110%, Zeb. You know, there's no doubt about the fact that the whole way that was brought about is one of the major problems with the act, and nobody's going to defend that. But, you know, the real problem is that whole thing could be solved in 15 days to 30 days.
I agree.
If people would just sit down and say, okay, here's all the bad things with it. I mean, I can tell them all the bad things with it in 5 minutes. I can tell them the good things with them in 5 minutes. Now fix the bad things, leave the good things, and let's get on down the road.
When they said this was ready for prime time, they being the Democrats and Obamacare, I mean, my goodness, Fred, they had 3.5 years to iron out how it was going to work on the computers and the internet and everything else. What did they do, or what did they not do to be ready for prime time and to have this thing thrust upon the American public?
Well, I think the biggest thing they didn't do is they simply didn't build it with enough capacity. Let's stop and think for a moment, Zeb, about how Americans shop, okay? Here's a new product that everybody's heard about. So what did they want to do? What Americans wanted to do is they wanted to get in there and find out all of the information that pertained to them, and let's presume for a moment that it's Cassia County, Idaho. We should have been able to go to that exchange and get on it and print off all of the insurance policies that were available to Cassia County, of which there's about, 60 or 70 or roughly that. Mm-hmm. And then we should have been able to put that on the kitchen table, and we should have been able to have a discussion of that for a month or two before you ever go and have to buy. That's the way Americans shop. Okay? And that's what they should have designed the system to do. The problem is they didn't. Secondly, they simply didn't put in the capacity in the system to handle all of the inquiries that they were going to have. They'll get the capacity built, but it won't be for a couple months.
When you look at the overall Obamacare structure, and it just seems like it's coming apart like a cheap suit, and Obama's statements over from 2009 up to the present, you can keep your current existing plan and I'll save you money and all this kind of stuff. Fred, it's becoming aware to people every day, number one, that their plan might be X'd out and they're going to have to go on Obamacare, and number two, it's costing sometimes 5 and 6 times more money on premiums. Why didn't they do better studies? Why didn't they create, like you said a moment ago, comparisons? This whole thing is a disaster for the entire United States of America, not just for Obama.
Well, one of the most egregious portions of the Affordable Care Act, in my opinion, is the so-called community rating provision. Now, what that means, what a community rating is that everybody pays the same amount for insurance. Zeb, if you take all Americans between the age of 18 and 24, and all of the Americans in the other group of between 60 and 64, okay? The cost of medical treatment for the 60 to 64-year-old is 8 times higher than the cost of medical treatment for the 18 to 24-year-olds. What that means is that the 60 to 64-year-olds should be paying 8 times more for their insurance premiums than the 18 to 24-year-olds.
Yeah.
We never had an 8-to-1 rating system in the state of Idaho prior to this. It was 5 or 6 to 1. But what happened is when they went to a community rating system, The young people in this country just flat got screwed, and there's no other way of putting it.
Absolutely.
They are just absolutely getting the shaft.
Yep.
I mean, there isn't any other way of saying it.
I agree. I totally agree. But now
interestingly enough, everybody makes that comparison. The comparison they don't make is the 60 to 64-year-old. And in speaking with Senator Dean Cameron, who runs an insurance agency, he told me that most of those policies are either going to remain the same, but most of them will actually go down. So the older generation is getting a pretty good deal. The younger generation is just plain getting the shaft.
Yeah. Let me ask you one final thought here, Fred, and I'm sorry I'm out of time almost, but wouldn't they, the Democrats, wouldn't they, our congressmen and senators, wouldn't he, Obama, be a lot better off if everybody would just look at the TV cameras and look into the newscasts and say, you know what, Obamacare has some problems. There are a lot of problems that are like leaves falling off a tree in the fall. We're going to take a year. We're going to study it, revamp it, and come out with a finished, more palatable product at the end of 2014. Wouldn't that save face for a lot of people and also be better for the American public?
You know, if the Democrats would do that, and then if the Republicans would get on board and say, okay, if you fix it, we'll support it, I agree.
But it ain't going to happen. Yeah.
You know, but it's got to be fixed.
Yep.
Because we don't want to destroy the ability of all of our people to get cancer therapy. We don't want to destroy the ability of having to go back to the old system. So that's what, again, though, reason has to prevail then. We've simply got to come together as a nation.
Well, okay, but now, final thought here. I've only got 30 seconds. With the Harry Reids and the Boehners, et cetera, the Pelosi's, et cetera, can they come together? I don't see a workable situation underneath this administration with the current leadership in the House and the Senate.
I would agree. Unfortunately, I would agree, and I don't know what the answer to that is. It's a sad day for America, is what it is.
Absolutely. You know, you are a dear friend of this program, and I have the utmost respect for you. Representative Fred Wood from Burley, thank you so much for sharing on the program with us, and please come back soon. I would enjoy having another conversation with you.
Happy to, Zeb. Anytime. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you so much. I have a lot of respect for that man, and the Mini-Cache area can be very proud that he is a representative for us. He's a sharp cookie, and I thank him for being on the show this morning. Representative Fred Wood. Oh, we got to pay some bills here real quick. I want to remind you about the Drift Inn, 545 F Street in Rupert. Oh, yeah. They've got lunch specials at, of course, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. They've got dinner starting at 5 p.m. with nightly specials. They've got banquet facilities. They've got lodging upstairs. You can stay right there. Eat, and then go up to the room. I love this. The Draft Inn. Drift Inn. Now I lost another one. It's not a good day for me. Drift Inn, 545 F Street in Rupert. Please stop over and make apologies for me because it is the Drift Inn in Rupert. And Gina's sitting over there cackling like a chicken. I can just bet on it.
Me?
Yeah, you love it when I have my tongue get caught between the split and my front teeth.
Well, you know, it's happened a couple times today, but who's counting?
Yeah, but who's counting? Little Miss Perfect sitting there with her little finger up in the air drinking tea with the rich and elite. Yeah, I know.
I've got coffee from home.
Yeah, cold.
Yeah.
With the grounds.
At the bottom.
But you know, that is better than taking a risk of drinking coffee that was put on by someone that you don't know.
Exactly. And I will take the grounds at the bottom of the cup any day of the week because, you know, it adds substance to the coffee.
Substance. I mean, there was a lot of stuff when I used to be on early mornings at a radio station in Twin way back in the late 60s. You didn't want to know what that substance in the bottom of the pot was.
Well, it was sludge from yesterday's leftover coffee.
Or last Tuesday's or whatever,
Yeah, I used to work at a radio station like that all the time. Yeah, okay, we've got a phone call.
I'll tell you what, I'll take that call in just a minute. Don't forget our thanks go out to Valleywide Home and Ranch in Rupert and also Sportsman's Warehouse. They are providing our extra gifts this week for the Cow Pies and Coffee Cups drawing on Thursday. A beautiful travel bag from Valleywide Home and Ranch, coffee mugs from Valleywide Home and Ranch, caps from Valleywide Home and Ranch, and a $50 gift certificate from Sportsman's Warehouse. Woo! Better get signed up for Cow Pies and Coffee Cups. Call it quickly. I've got 30 seconds.
Hey, Zeb, just wanted to say, I hope you get it right next time on the advertisement, because when the harvest is over, I'm going to be going to one of those places you advertise to celebrate.
All right, well, listen, you go and celebrate.
I believe it is.
Oh, yeah, great people over there, great restaurant. Thank you so much, Rodney. I got to run to our break at the bottom of the hour. God bless. I'll be back in 3 minutes. Thank you.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. Last half hour, Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday, and I'm very blessed not only to have this man and his expertise and knowledge, but he's just a darn nice guy, and that's Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org, and he knows all about education. And I invited him back on the program for a couple of reasons this morning. Kyle, the more I read, the more I study Common Core, the more questions I have as to the implementation and the net effect of Common Core on our students. I've got some real worries about Common Core, and I'm trying to be open-minded and objective about this. What would you tell me, kind of straddling the fence right now, as far as Common Core and the implementation?
Well, I think it hasn't been good. And in fact, a lot of the people who are actually doing the implementing have said that it hasn't been good, and it could have gone better, and all of that. There was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, you had the parent arrested in Baltimore because he got up during a public meeting and was asking some questions, and a lot of people didn't like that, and he ended up being arrested. And it was interesting because a couple days later, the superintendent sent out a letter to all of the staff of the Baltimore County District and said, I apologize because you got your Common Core aligned curriculum just a couple days before school started. Some of the curriculum is still being written, and it hasn't been going well. And so I think there is a lot of concern. And so you've got that situation where the parent was arrested. But then New York State, they've been doing some what they're calling town hall meetings. They had their first last week. The state education commissioner got to talk for an hour and 40 minutes, and then they left 23 minutes for the audience to voice to sound off. And the audience, of course, was educated. They were ready to with their points and their criticisms and all those sorts of things. And they were kind of rowdy. But then the education commissioner has now canceled the other 4 because they say that these forums won't be productive. And so I think a lot of people are concerned that the debate around Common Core is just simply being shut down. And to me, what that says is you've got an insecure bureaucracy that doesn't really know what it's doing, that is not implementing this well, and doesn't want to own up to it. And so they're simply just cutting off debate versus owning up to what's going on.
Kyle, couldn't you draw, or couldn't anybody draw, a kind of analogy between Obamacare and Common Core as both being disasters of public communication and public knowledge? People really don't know what they're getting?
Sure, because I think Obamacare is, obviously on a much larger scale and a lot more money. But at the same time, this top-down, what we've seen is this top-down approach where you've got the federal government involved, you've got, the National Governors Association and these different national groups involved, telling states, telling local school districts what they're going to do, how they're going to run their school district. And if they step out of line, the feds are going to tell them to get back in line. A good example is the state of California said that they weren't going to hold teachers accountable for or with the Common Core test. Now, we can have a separate debate about whether or not that's a good thing, but when they decided that, Arnie Duncan, the education secretary, said, no, that's not what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a very heavy federal presence involved here. And so I think that sort of thing is really causing people to say, is this what this program was intended? And is this actually going to improve educational outcomes for our students?
Kyle, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but I want to mention it again. When I look at Common Core, and I'm not the expert that you are, but when I look at Common Core, I don't see the availability for a hole in the roof, if you will, for the students that are really gifted and more talented to jump through that hole in the roof and reach for the stars. I kind of look at Common Core as almost like being like No Child Left Behind, to where you're still holding down somewhat your better students. Am I wrong?
Well, their common is in the name for a reason. I mean, there's a reason that it's called Common Core, because everything is going to be common. And in fact, when people started pointing out what you just said, Arnie Duncan, the education secretary, was trying to play down the whole common part of Common Core. And they're trying to, some states are actually changing the name to get away from Common Core. Arizona changed it to something like career and college-ready standards or something like that. To me, what it's doing is when you have national standards, when you have the exact same standards in Idaho as you do in Michigan, where I live, as you do in Oklahoma or wherever, where is the incentive? Where's the innovation? Where is the drive for my state to outperform your state, or vice versa?
Mm-hmm.
If everybody is, the same, there is no incentive to, try new things or to achieve higher or set higher standards and those sorts of things.
With the implementation of Common Core, whether it's Michigan, whether it's Idaho, wherever, are enough people, are they asking questions? Are they demanding answers as to what it will do and what it won't do? Or is the American public just taking this like they do a lot of things, just blasé, here today, gone tomorrow?
Well, I do think that people are turning out and going to the hearings, they're going to the meetings, they're going to these town hall meetings like in Baltimore and New York. I think, though, that the proponents of Common Core are trying their best to just dismiss criticism as, it's just those, Tea Party crazies that just, hate government and blah, blah, blah. They're doing their best to try and do that. But the trouble that they've got is that unions don't, or rank and file unions don't like it. The organizations themselves have embraced Common Core, largely, in my opinion, because of the money that they got from the Gates Foundation. But you've got people on both sides of the ideological spectrum opposed to Common Core for very different reasons, but the bottom line is they're opposed to it. But you've got the likes of Jeb Bush and others who are just trying to dismiss any sort of very legitimate criticism as noise, as, they're just acting politically, and those sorts of things. And so, I think some of the criticism I just think is silly, and it's a distraction. But there is a lot of criticism that is very legitimate. And professors are raising criticism about the quality of the standards, what it's actually going to do for education, for student achievement. You've got people who care about states' rights and want states to be the education incubators, who are concerned about the power that states are losing. You've got people concerned about student privacy and the amount of data that's going to be collected on students through the testing and those sorts of things. And so there's lots of very legitimate concerns that just simply are not being addressed. They're being ignored. And when those criticisms come up, then the debate is silenced.
Let me ask you this, and I know this is looking into a crystal ball, but if Common Core is implemented and accepted across the United States, from Washington on the West Coast to Washington, D.C. on the East Coast, what do you think is going to happen to the overall quality of education over the next decade?
Well, I think it'll go down, and it's been going down for years, and so I don't think that this is actually going to improve anything. I think it will probably actually make it worse. And what we're doing is we're wasting time, talking about Common Core and not talking about it, but thinking that this is going to be some solution, and all the while we just keep getting further behind. And so to me, what should happen is we should not only have states' rights and leave education up to the states, but I think we should decentralize it even further and leave it up to individual schools, and have schools be transparent about how their students are achieving, and then let parents pick what school they want their child to go to. To me, a decentralized system where you have schools, you have school leaders, you have parents, you have teachers that are doing everything they can to make sure kids succeed, that is what will improve education. I was almost said fix the system, but that should, to me, should not be the objective. The objective should be improving education for students.
Absolutely. Kyle, let's be honest, I talked to you before the program this morning, and I showed and shared with you a concern that I have in regards to lesbian and gay and transgender history being mandated in the state of California to be taught to our students, and President Obama took it upon himself to declare also that October is LGBT History Month. What is going on? This is like teaching pornography in the classroom.
Well, there's a real agenda to push these issues on kids. I was actually doing some research last week, and I was looking at lesson plans for teaching this sort of thing. And I found a lesson plan that teaches students, gives students tips about how to come out to their parents as being transgendered. And so my first initial reaction was, so you have the school, whether it's the teacher or it's activists in the school or whoever it is, are now getting in the way between the relationship between the student or the child really and the parent. So you've got that going on. But then what amount of the population are we really talking about? And so I was doing some research on that, and I found that 0.3% of Americans identify themselves as transgendered. And yet we've got lesson plans, we have schools that are pushing this sort of thing on all students when it's not going to apply to the vast majority of students in the country.
Absolutely.
And so what I see happening is a real agenda being pushed, which I think breaks down moral absolutes. It creates moral relativism and those sorts of things, and that's those are being pushed on kids at very young ages in schools, and that's why parents need to be on the lookout for that sort of thing and speak up when they see it happening.
What about parents, though? It seems like, look at Bloomberg in New York, his attitude, well, we're going to do it anyway, regardless of what the parents want. It's this kind of an attitude like government or education in itself is going to run over the parents and basically tell them, hey, when we've got your kids from 7:30 till 4 in the afternoon, you just sit down and shut up. We're going to do it our way. I think parents have lost any and all control and or power. Am I wrong?
I think they have lost a significant amount of power. I don't know if it's all of the power, but I think they've lost a lot. There was another story from Canada, just north of New York State, where there was a student, a young girl, I think she was 7, who drew a picture of a gun. And, of course, the school was alarmed by this. And she said, well, my daddy has a gun, and I get to play with it sometimes. Of course, they all just went crazy. And so the parent ended up being arrested. He was strip searched. Turned out it was a toy. It was a clear plastic toy gun.
Oh, boy.
But the statement from the school district was that, well, we are the co-parents. We are co-parenting along with the child's parents. And so there's this idea that, because you went to a school of education, because you have a degree, because you work in a school, then you know better than parents. And we see this attitude, and that was Canadian, but we see this sort of attitude across America, that people working in schools, they know better than what parents believe, what parents think is in the best interest of their children. And so it's a real fight to try and overcome that attitude, and to fight back against that attitude. But parents need to do that because they know what is in the best interest of their children, not government employees, not people working in nonprofits. Parents know what's best.
Wouldn't you say, though, Kyle, that parents in general, en masse, they kind of brought this item on themselves when they get up early in the morning and let their kids go off to school to have breakfast, then they stay there for lunch, and then the parents, maybe because they claim they're too busy, or maybe they want to go to the country club and play golf, they say, oh, well, the kids will be all right because the school will take care of them and provide for them a late afternoon supper, if you will, and parents have basically shunned the responsibility of being parents and turned it over to the government, so what can we expect?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of this catch-22 where it's kind of a cycle. I don't know what the appropriate term would be, but basically you've got, I think, overzealous people in schools who are saying, well, we got to do this because, the parents aren't. And so the parents kind of retreat, and then the bureaucrats just, charge ahead a little farther, and now we're going to, serve breakfast, but we're just going to have, a financial requirement. But then they come out and they say, well, the paperwork, because of the financial requirement, is just so onerous and so expensive that we could actually save money if we just give a breakfast to everybody, regardless of financial need or not. And that's actually what's happening now. And so I think you see this, if you think in war terms where they charge ahead and then there's a retreat and then they continue to charge ahead, that's what's happening. But at some point, parents, and I'm not saying this is lost, but at some point parents have got to say, that is my responsibility. I'm the parent. I'm going to take responsibility for that. I'm not going to ask the school to do that. I'm not going to expect the school to do that. That's my job.
Absolutely.
And I think what it's doing is it's not only requiring parents to take ownership for their children, but it's also teaching those sorts of values to their children that, no, this is what we do. In fact, I've had discussions with my own children about this because they point out, well, the kids in my class, they get breakfast in the morning. And I say, yeah, but that's our responsibility as parents. That's not the school's responsibility. That's not the government's responsibility. That's our responsibility. And so I think it's really critical that parents, own parenting and taking responsibility for that.
I want to go back just a minute, one final question here in regards to this gay and lesbian and basically the movement that LGBT History Month or celebrating this kind of filth in the schools. Has it gone so far, Kyle, that we can't turn this around? I mean, since when did somebody's sexual desires be a part of our history? It's not talking about the Wright brothers inventing the airplane. It's not talking about Dr. Jonas Salk talking about inventing the polio vaccine. This is celebrating somebody because of their perverted sexual activity. This is so sick, I'm surprised every school hasn't thrown it out.
Yeah. Well, I think your question is, has it gone too far? I don't think it has. And I think, what we're seeing around the country is parents who are exposing lesson plans and textbooks. There's the story of the textbook that rewrote the Second Amendment was about a month ago or so. So I think people are tuning into more of what is going on in the classroom. And I think the more that happens, the more the activists in the classroom will know that people are watching, and they either will be more subtle with what they're doing or they will knock it off. And so I think that's a positive development. But look at, like we've been talking about this morning, we've talked about before, it's critical that parents own the education system. They run for the school board. They look at, what their child's homework is, or they ask what's going on in the classroom. We as taxpayers own the system. The bureaucrats don't own it. The school boards don't own it. We, as tax-paying citizens, own the system, whether you have kids in the system or not. And so we need to play a bigger role in managing that system and making sure that the kids' interests are being put first. But that requires us to actually step up and do that sort of thing. And so, it's a big fight, but parents have got to do it because it's in the best interest of their kids.
Absolutely. This gentleman is just absolutely valuable on any program. Thank you very much, Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. God bless you, my friend, and I'll be in touch and have you back soon. Thank you again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wow, there's so much going on in the school systems, but, come on. Teaching these kids and mandating that the kids in the elementary, junior high, and the high school have to learn about pathetic homosexuality and also porn movie producers? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not. It's actually occurring, and our president is pushing it. It's time for the weather. We've got to have a redo of Michael Rogers' weather, brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps, all through our dear friends, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Here now, Michael Rogers' weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and believe it or not, how about some nice weather? Especially to start out on a Monday. Sunny, 55 for the high. A little breezy, though. You might want to just carry a sweater just in case. Winds are going to be out of the southwest at about 8 to 10 miles an hour, gusting to about 20. Partly cloudy tonight, 34 for the overnight low. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. And, of course, brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, again, through our dear friends, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Wow. There's so much going on in the news, and we're going to have a busy, busy day tomorrow. We've got a lot of people coming on the show that are very prominently involved in some of the top topics. I'm going to be trying to get an update on what's happening in South Dakota with over 100,000 cattle that died in that major snowstorm. We're going to try to get some first-hand, first-person calls. I'm going to try to get in touch with one of my old college buddies to have him tell us a little bit about it. His name is Ed Baser, and then also try to talk to Marty Mickelson, and he was there and stranded for almost 4 weeks. Don't forget the great big tire sale. Huge tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations with the best in tires serving you. Absolutely. Now, don't forget, they've got all the different tread designs, all the different tires, like the Wildcat AT2 for your light truck and SUVs, and they also have, for your cars, don't forget the passenger car Ultra Z900. All of this on sale right now. All you have to do is just get in there and say howdy, and they'll help you out with the best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, you name it, along with all the tires. Here's the locations: Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Well, lovely lady over at the studio, what else is cooking on a Monday?
Not much. Actually, I'm sitting here trying to plan out the intricacies of my Halloween costume, which, by the way, I was going to ask you. Are we doing the pumpkin caper?
No.
No. Okay.
No, not this year. Unfortunately, not this year, due to my possibly being in the hospital.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just looking at Halloween costume stuff.
You know, I never, ever could wear a Halloween costume. You know why?
So you could go as yourself.
I don't know how to take that, my dear.
Hey, you could go as a cowboy roper.
Well, I know, but you know the thing is,
you never got into Halloween, did you?
No, they see the crutches and they go, "Oh, I could have the world's greatest costume on." The world's greatest costume, and they're going to go, "How you doing, Zeb?"
Exactly. And so for me, it's like everybody's going to know who I am, but I'm just trying to figure out finishing touches on the costume.
I love Halloween costumes.
Oh, me too. I have a great time with it. And this one it's kind of a rehash of something that I did about 7 years ago.
Oh, boy.
So I'm pulling it out of the storage, and so there's some things that I need to fix, and so I'm just kind of figuring
Did you hear about that older lady that was at one of those sun-type rest homes to where the clothing was optional? Yeah, she decided to go to a Halloween party nude as a road map with all of her varicose veins.
And well, then she could go as a road map then. Segueing into you have a caller on the air.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zebra.
Yes.
We're going to have a lunch bunch this month.
I hope so. You better start listening, man. We said it 3 times already today and last week. It's going to be next week on Thursday.
Next week on Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Well, Zeb, I'm taking a class, and it's taken all my time to read, and I'm doing about 4 or 5 hours of reading.
No, that's all right. It's going to be next Thursday at our friends at Perkins Restaurant, 11:30. Be there or be square.
Yeah, well, we'll be there.
All right, my friend.
Thank you very much.
God bless you, my dear friend. Carl Clark, good guy right there. We're going to say that's it for today. Deanna's got a great big beef roast ready for lunch. We didn't have a big dinner. We didn't have any dinner yesterday.
Yeah, you're killing me.
And it's been in the crock pot. It's been in the crock pot. And you know what that's like?
Oh, yes, because you're smelling it the entire time that it's cooking.
Melt in your mouth. Delicious. I'll tell you what, you just go ahead and play radio all you want. I'm going to go eat.
Fine.
Okay. Hey, tune in tomorrow, 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch. We'll ride the horse for 3 hours right here where we always say the way things were, the way things ought to be. See you later. Bye-bye.